Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really big question, one that's definitely on a lot of people's minds.
hmm
How technology, especially AI and automation, is just fundamentally changing how we work.
It's huge right now.
Yeah. So whether you're, leading a team, trying to figure out your next career move, or maybe you're just curious about what's coming, well, this deep dive is for you.
And our goal isn't just to sort of rehash the headlines, is it?
No, not at all. We really want to unpack the real economic side, but also the human stories behind these big shifts. And we're drawing heavily on some fantastic discussions we've been having over on our company's blog.
Those posts have really sparked some interesting thoughts.
They really have. And, it's fascinating. These anxieties, they're not entirely new. We found this great historical parallel in one of the posts.
Oh, the stocking frame story.
Exactly. Back in 1589, William Lee invents this knitting machine, much faster than knitting by hand. But Queen Elizabeth II apparently refused him a patent. Why? Because she was worried about all the hand knitters losing their livelihoods.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
That same tension, innovation versus the human cost. It's exactly what we're talking about today with AI and jobs.
Precisely. That historical thread really highlights this recurring thing, doesn't it? How we react to these big technological leaps.
Yeah, it's less about rejecting the tech itself and
Yeah.
more about grappling with what it means for society. The Queen wasn't just worried about knitting quality.
Right. It was the economic disruption, the people.
Exactly. And that's, I think, a really crucial lens for looking at what's happening right now.
Absolutely. And as we've been exploring on the blog, actually getting this new tech to work in the real world, well, it's not always smooth sailing.
Oh, far from it. There are significant hurdles, real setbacks.
Yeah, like that Gartner survey from 2022, it found only about, 54% of AI projects actually make it from pilot to full production.
It's just over half. And what's really insightful there isn't just the failure rate itself, though that's high. It's why. It suggests that nearly half these projects stumble, not because the AI itself is bad, but because, well, maybe it's not integrated properly.
People just don't adopt it.
Exactly. There's a disconnect with the existing systems, the workflows, and crucially, the people who are supposed to benefit from it.
That's a really critical point. And if you zoom out from just AI, look at digital transformation more broadly, the picture gets even, starker.
You're thinking of that 2018 number.
Yeah, over $1.3 trillion spent on these initiatives.
Trillion.
And 70% failed to meet their goals. That's over $900 billion basically wasted.
It's staggering. And it makes you ask, okay, when these big tech bets go sideways, who actually feels the impact?
Yeah, who bears the brunt?
And this really gets to the heart of it, something we discussed a lot on the blog. The consequences, they ripple outwards, don't they? It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet.
No. It's employees maybe facing job losses or huge role changes without enough support.
Or customers getting frustrated with glitchy systems.
Right. Or shareholders seeing their investments just dwindle. The promised efficiency gets swallowed up by these unexpected human and operational costs.
And that leads to a core idea from the blog post, which I think is so important.
Which is?
That technology should really be there to augment what humans do, to amplify our capabilities, not just replace us wholesale.
Right. The sweet spot seems to be where tech and human expertise work together, a partnership.
Exactly. A symbiotic relationship. Tech is brilliant at the repetitive stuff, crunching data, doing calculations super fast.
Frees people up for the uniquely human things.
Precisely. Creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, dealing with complex situations, tricky interpersonal stuff. Tech can't do that.
But getting that synergy isn't automatic, is it?
No way. It takes real, deliberate planning. You need comprehensive training, thoughtful integration into how work actually gets done. Without that, even the fanciest tech will likely underdeliver.
And this ties directly into another major theme from the blog, this idea that we often undervalue our human capital in the race to adopt new tech.
We use that analogy of natural ecosystems.
Yeah, tell us about that, the keystone species idea.
Right. So think about a keystone species in nature like a beaver building a dam or sea otters in kelp forests. Their presence has this massive disproportionate impact on the whole environment.
Okay.
Well, the idea is that human capital, the skills, the knowledge, the collaboration within your team acts like a keystone species in the workplace ecosystem.
So disrupting that human element carelessly.
Can have these cascading negative effects throughout the entire organization. its health, its resilience. It all depends on that human core.
And it's not just a theory. The blog post drew a line back to the Luddites again.
Yeah, their resistance wasn't just about smashing machines. It was about technology being rolled out without any thought for the workers' welfare.
And we're seeing echoes of that anxiety today with AI. History definitely has lessons for us here.
It really does. And we have current data backing this up too. Gallup's 2024 poll. Employee engagement in the U.S. down to only 32%.
Wow, that's low.
It's a big dip.
Oh.
And it strongly suggests a lot of people are feeling detached, maybe undervalued. Could that be linked to how tech is being introduced?
Oh.
Very possibly.
That feeling of being, I don't know, expendable,
Yeah.
it must have real consequences. The blog mentioned some Harvard Business Review findings.
Yeah, those were quite striking.
Yeah.
In industries going through heavy tech disruption, they found a 28% surge in job dissatisfaction
28%.
and an 18% rise in mental health-related costs. These aren't just abstract numbers. That's a real human cost when change isn't managed well.
It's like we're meddling with this complex organizational ecosystem without really understanding the potential fallout. The blog even referenced Rachel Carson's Silent Spring.
Which is such a powerful analogy. Carson showed how interconnected nature is, right? And the dangers of disrupting it without grasping the wider impact.
So the same applies to organizations.
Exactly. Just swapping people for tech without a strategy for support, reskilling, valuing what people still bring, it can actually make the organization weaker, less adaptable.
So what's the answer then, according to the blog? More than just reskilling programs?
Oh, much more. The blog argues it needs a fundamental culture shift, one that genuinely values employee input, fosters continuous learning, sees people as adaptable assets, not just costs.
And this thinking really connects to another fascinating concept from the blog, this idea of worker one.
Yes, worker one. Yeah, it's a really interesting counterpoint to the usual focus on, like, the rockstar developer or the mythical AI whisperer.
Right, those individual heroes.
Worker one is different. It emphasizes qualities like compassion, adaptability, community focus, learning agility, and crucially, generosity in teaching others.
Like connective tissue in the organization.
Precisely. The blog used the analogy of mycorrhizal fungi in a forest, those underground networks connecting trees, sharing resources.
That's a great image. Interdependence.
Exactly. Because resilient systems, whether in nature or business, aren't just about flashy components. They're built on strong interconnections.
And there's data on this too, right? Deloitte.
Yep, a 2023 Deloitte report, cited in the blog, found organizations with better cross-functional collaboration and peer mentoring scored 33% higher in change adoption. It shows that people working together well is incredibly powerful.
So the blog really pushes back against that disposable worker model.
Strongly.
Yeah.
It argues for investing in people so they can grow with the technology, build that community learning.
How does that change how we think about risk?
Well, instead of just trying to automate away human error, which, let's face it, often creates new unexpected problems.
True.
The worker one model kind of distributes risk. It leverages the collective wisdom, the adaptability of the whole group to spot and solve problems together. It builds resilience from the inside out.
That makes sense. Building smart ecosystems, not just cutting costs. The beehive analogy from the blog fits here too.
It does, perfectly.
Yeah.
A beehive is incredibly efficient, right? But it's based on cooperation, everyone playing their part, seamless communication, not on constantly trimming the workforce.
Which is often the first reaction in corporations facing disruption. Cut heads, cut training.
Exactly. Actions that can actually make the organization less able to cope in the long run.
So the blogs talked about specific tools or philosophies that support this ecosystem approach.
Yeah, a few interesting examples came up, like TAO.ai was mentioned.
What does that do?
It's focused on enabling peer-to-peer learning, creating these scalable knowledge networks inside a company. The idea is to move beyond just top-down training.
So people learn more effectively from each other.
Right. And the blog noted it leads to more efficient peer learning, faster onboarding, real benefits.
And then there was the Human Potential Index. Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking about value. Instead of just tracking time or output, it tries to map individual growth to the organization's overall resilience.
So focusing on unlocking potential.
Exactly. Recognizing that the company's real strength is in its people's capacity to grow. And Asherman, as a concept, focused on creating workplaces that prioritize not just productivity, but also mental health, reducing stress, making work more, well, joyful even.
Because stressed out people aren't productive or innovative.
Fundamentally, no. And the blog cited that World Economic Forum Stat 2, companies that invest in reskilling see 30% higher retention. It pays off.
It all seems to circle back to this core idea. Don't treat the organization like a machine you can just swap parts in and out of. Treat it like a living ecosystem.
Precisely. Which brings us to the long-term costs of getting this wrong, of putting tech first and people last. Another key point in the blog's wrap-up.
There was another historical parallel there, wasn't there, about medieval kings?
Yeah, the anecdote about kings dismissing loyal, experienced advisors after maybe one mistake during a crisis.
Short-sighted.
Very. You save a bit now, maybe, but you lose invaluable experience, institutional knowledge, trust. The long-term damage can be huge.
And the financial costs of failed digital transformations we mentioned earlier, they are definitely not trivial.
No kidding. That McKinsey estimate we referenced on the blog averaged losses between $100 million and $500 million per failed project.
Ouch.
Right. And that's just the direct cost. Think about the intangible stuff. Brand damage, losing experienced staff, customer dissatisfaction.
And the core message from the blog seems to be, look, tech first, people last just doesn't work reliably. Technology needs people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tech doesn't implement itself. It doesn't understand company culture. It can't provide mentorship or ethical guidance or creative solutions on its own.
So treating employees like they're expendable?
It just breeds disengagement, high turnover, and ultimately stalls the very progress you were aiming for.
Whereas the companies that succeed treat their people as partners in the change.
Yes. They focus on validation, adaptation, and elevating their people alongside the technology. That's the contrast the blog really highlighted.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. After this deep dive into the economics of disruption, drawing on all those insights from our company blog, what's the single biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I think the central message is pretty clear. Technological change is happening. It's inevitable. But its success really hinges on us, on valuing and investing in the humans who work with it.
Not just trying to replace them.
Exactly. Trying to just swap people for tech is risky, financially, yes, but it also misses the huge irreplaceable value of human skills, adaptability, collaboration.
And the blog's call to action really sums it up. Don't just disrupt, validate, adapt, and elevate.
That's it. It's a more holistic approach.
Yeah.
A more sustainable one, really.
So maybe a final thought for you listening right now.
Yeah, something to chew on. In the long run, isn't it the wisdom, the compassion, the collective strength of the people using the tech that truly determines its impact?
How is your organization navigating that balance between the tech push and valuing your people?
It's the critical question.
Some really vital points to consider there. If you want to dig deeper into these ideas, explore how we can build a future of work where people aren't an afterthought, definitely check out our company website.
We've got lots more insights and resources there.
Yep, the link is right there in the description. And remember, figuring out this future of work, it's not something one company or one person does alone.
It's definitely a shared project,
Yeah.
something we need to build together.